Boo! Did I scare you? Well, I hope so, because today is Halloween! I hope. And that means it's time for the real spooky hours. Sure, everyone else on YouTube hopped on the Bone Jr. ride of thrills as soon as October started, but we here at the Stun Club are not that well prepared. So with all that said, it's time to talk about my favorite horror property of all time, Scooby-Doo, which might actually make me a child or something. Anyway, I could talk about a lot of things, like why Scooby-Doo Zombie Island is a masterpiece, why What's New Scooby-Doo has the best theme song, followed closely by a pup named Scooby-Doo, why you should be reading Edgy Scooby-Doo, aka Scooby-Doo Apocalypse, or even why the Scooby-Doo live-action movie is a misunderstood, surreal movie on the level of a David Lynch film. But this one was something that I had to talk about. But dang, those are some good ideas actually. Let me stop myself, because what we have here isn't even about any of the large amount of movies and shows. This is about Scooby himself, and the relatively unknown man behind the design of our favorite dog. That's right, this video is about Iwao Takamoto, a man that could be considered one of the fathers of Scooby-Doo, and should be remembered for his hard work and his passion to create things that would stand the test of time. Oh wait, I have another video idea about how to make the Hex Girls real, and also all of my girlfriends. Maybe I should scrap this video and do that instead. What better way to start talking about the life of this man than by talking about the start of it all? Well, not like the start, because we don't need to dive that deep. So, being Japanese in America during World War II, Takamoto spent 4 or so years in the Manzanar internment camp. And before I continue, I just want to say that without his book, My Life with 1,000 Characters, I would have missed out on a lot of the interesting tidbits. So if you're interested in learning more about the guy, I suggest you pick it up. It's a pretty good read. Alright, so before being forced into Manzanar, Takamoto, as a result of his grades and his father's effect on them, qualified to be in grades higher than he should have been in. He was pretty smart. So when classes were starting to be reintroduced at Manzanar, he was already ready to go to college despite wanting to be in the 11th grade. And while he was chilling in between work, he became sort of a guinea pig for aptitude testing. Of course, he was too smart and kept scoring above average, with the head of education saying, "You're of absolutely no use to me. You're not a good example of what an average student is." Despite this, the head did notice that Takamoto seemed to like sketching in his free time and allowed him access to a warehouse full of art supplies that were intended for the students. This allowed him to sketch to his heart's content, and eventually he learned some things from co-internees who happened to be art directors. It was also these art directors that recommended that Takamoto should work at Disney due to their liberal views on race. After chatting with the woman on the phone, she left them with the date and the parting words, "Make sure you bring your portfolio." This here is where Iwao Takamoto took control of his fate. He had a week to stare down and begin at the 0% mark. Takamoto bought 2 pads of paper and began to draw everything he saw and everything he could think of. He needed to sell himself, and work on display is the only way to do that. Forgetting actions, a drawing can get pretty loud with 1,000 words at his disposal. With his 2 drawing pads, Mr. Takamoto jumped right past those professional types in their fancy leather portfolios. Having something to show, despite the tenure, despite the experience, despite the work hours, is what led Mr. Takamoto to begin his career the next Monday. He even became a poster boy to convince other Japanese Americans to leave the internment camps, which became their homes, in order to live their lives. But who cares about Disney, other than billions of people? The real fun started when he went over to Hanna-Barbera, and by fun, I mean Scooby-Doo related fun. So after the original Johnny Quest finished its 1-season run due to it being too expensive, the creative minds had to come up with something new. That something new ended up being Scooby-Doo, and Takamoto was tasked with turning that idea into tangible designs. But, of course, things aren't always that simple. Sure, there was the idea of a spooky mystery kids show, but coming up with the structure of it was proving to be difficult. It was either too scary or too boring, and it's hard to figure out what the kids want. Eventually, Joe Barbera said, "Why don't we do the same thing we did on Quest and put a dog in there? Maybe that will help to enliven the whole structure of the show a little bit, and it will give a certain kind of relief to the information of the mystery." Boom, they springboarded off of that, but there was the question of what type of dog it should be. At first, Joe Barbera thought a dog like an Airedale would be perfect, which I don't know if I want an OG Scrappy-Doo as our leading dog. Oh wait, Takamoto even considered Scrappy-Doo to be an undersized monster more than anything else, mostly because of how anthropomorphized he was, and annoying. This line of thinking probably led him to ask if a big dog could work, and the others said sure. Takamoto started thinking of some big dogs, and the first one that came to mind was a Great Dane. And oh, how convenient. He had a co-worker that actually bred Great Danes, so of course he had to ask what type of things made a Great Dane great. And then he did the opposite of what she said. Where his jaw should have been small and tight, Scooby's was large and uneven. Instead of a straight back, his was hunched. Legs that should have been straight are extra bold on Scooby-Doo. Scooby may not win many dog shows anytime soon, but hey, it's pretty funny and it is easier to animate. He took that design to Ruby and Spears and he had full approval. In fact, Fred Silverman, executive for daytime programming at CBS, took one look at Scooby-Doo and declared, "That's the star of the show." And thus we had the birth of Scooby. And can I say thank goodness that they didn't go with the other option of too much in the Mysteries 5. The designs had so much impact on the personality of the characters, not just Scooby. He would get the description of the teens and take their perceived personalities to create the designs. For example, while working on Shaggy, he thought of G. Krebs from Dobby Gillis, who technically was a beatnik, not a hippie, and decided to give Shaggy that of a mild C shape. Like if you saw his silhouette, it would be a C. And design-wise, he liked the idea of everything hanging on him with his t-shirt being too large. Just in case you were wondering, Fred was an inverted V, Daphne was an S curve, and Velma didn't have a letter, she was just stumpy. And sure, in terms of how they dressed, it just aped off the current fashion trends, but combined with how their personalities shine in their designs, it stood the test of time. I mean, 50 years is nothing to sneeze at, and while we can easily say that Joe Ruby and Ken Spears are responsible for this, you cannot take away the role that Takamoto played at creating some memorable characters and our favorite dog. Iwao Takamoto passed away on January 8th, 2007, leaving behind a great legacy of cartoons that he worked on. I want to say again that if you do get the chance, I really recommend reading his book, My Life with 1,000 Characters. It's a really cool look into his life as an animator, though I wish there were more details about his life and maybe some art that he drew. Something funny I read in the book was him debunking the theory that Shaggy and Scooby smoked weed. Anyway, I think we should all take a page from Iwao Takamoto's book, not My Life with 1,000 Characters, and become what you want to be. Instead of asking that age-old question of what do I need to do to get a job where you work, make your own. Start making things and build off that experience. Maybe you too can touch lives with your work. And to illustrate that, I'm going to list a bunch of cartoons that he worked on, just to show the crazy amount of things that he's done and to show the way that he permeated through childhoods. Have a good day and I'll see you later. Cinderella, Lady and the Tramp, Sleeping Beauty, Peter Pan, 101 Dalmatians, Mickey and the Beanstalk, Pecos Bill, Charlotte's Web, The Jetsons, The Flintstones, Wacky Races, The Addams Family, Hong Kong Phooey, Jabberjaw, The Secret Squirrel Show, The Great Grape Ape Show, The Harlem Globetrotters, Josie and the Pussycats, Tom and Jerry, Crypto the Superdog, and we cannot forget Scooby-Doo.